Welcome back to the channel. Thank y'all for hanging with me on this Monday. So I wanted to give you my top 4 baits for the month of May. And all of these baits are really going to revolve around the post spawn, even though some lakes and rivers around the country still have a lot of fish that are spawning. The majority of the fish by May, at the end of May, will be done spawning and in what we consider the post spawn funk, which can be a really tough time of year to fish. But the cool thing about fishing in the month of May is you really have fish that are in all different phases, and you also are going to have fish in all different depth ranges. So just because they may be everywhere, you're not going to find them anywhere. And I think that's probably the most important thing that you take from this video, is that the fishing is going to be super tough at times, and the weights are going to go down in tournaments, or if you're just out there fun fishing, you can't really have the expectations that you have earlier in the spring that you'll have in the month of May. But I'm going to give you 4 baits that should work anywhere in the country. So the first one is a spinnerbait. Now, this is the #1 bait for the shad spawn, but you'll also find that a spinnerbait, in my opinion, is the #1 bait for post spawn bass. Has a lot of flash. Bass are just in a really weird mood that time of year. It's a big meal. They typically like to get a big meal before they head off to their summer haunts. Spinnerbait checks all those boxes. I like willow leaves this time of year. Anytime that water is above 70 degrees, I'm all about the willow leaves. If you've been watching my videos lately, I've been throwing 1 willow leaf and then 1 Colorado just so I can feel that bait a little bit better. On Gunnersville, we have a lot of chopped up eelgrass. So in order for me to know that my spinnerbait's not fouled up, I like 1 Colorado on there because that helps you feel the vibration of the bait. Willow leaves, you don't feel it as well, but I really like willow leaves. If you can get away with 2 willow leaves, throw it. It's your most natural presentation. And this is really going to work in all depth ranges. So if you have fish that are already moving out deep, this is a really good ledge bait. Go up to your 3/4, 1 ounce. If you're fishing around brush piles that are in that 8 to 15 foot range, same thing, 1/2 ounce, 3/4 ounce. And then if you're shallow, depending on your water clarity, I like a 1/2 most of the time. But if you have really stained water and you're fishing super shallow, that 3/8 is a good size as well. But if you just want 1, I really like the 1/2 ounce. Now, that is a good all range bait. And the swim bait is the same thing. You're going to still catch some spawners on the swim bait, and then you'll also catch some of those fish that are transitioning out to their deep summer places with the swim bait. So you can basically throw the swim bait in all the places that you're throwing the spinner bait. It's just going to appeal to those bigger fish, I think, a little bit better. You know, this is going to imitate big gizzard shad, which are also going to spawn in the month of May. This is going to imitate those smaller threadfin shad, but these two go hand in hand depending on your conditions. A lot of wind, I like the flash from the spinnerbait. If you have clouds but not as much wind, I really like the swim bait. And the swim bait, you can use all different size jig heads and fish it in all depths, but it's just a really good offering to those fish that want 1 big meal. Now, shallow is still sometimes your best bet. You know, if you live in around a lake that has really stained water, a lot of those lakes has a fairly decent shallow bite year round, and that's going to sometimes be your best bet when they just haven't got out to where they're a little bit easier to catch on those deeper places. So my next 2 baits revolve around shallow water. The first one being the swim jig. So if I have good fishing conditions, the swim jig, and you can basically do anything you want with this. You know, you can put the craw style kicking trailer on the back and do the Alabama shake. That's great around water willow, lay down trees. Or you can just put a swim bait on the back of this. I like a skinny dipper, slow roll that around the grass. You know, so there's a lot of different ways you can fish this. And this is basically a hybrid of the spinner bait and the swim bait. So really you can fish this in a little bit more places than you can throw these 2 baits, but you're basically giving them the same presentation, and you're going to kind of fish it exactly the same way. The slow roll, maybe you're going to yo-yo it, but this is a great bait anytime you're around cover. Could be grass, could be wood, could be rock. Really good in the post spawn, and all colors work, you know. So white would probably be my first option, especially if there's a little bit of color in the water, because you do have a lot of shad. that are going to be around the cover. So white, always a good option. White's not always going to work, especially on lakes that have clear water, high sun, no clouds. Then you got to go with your more naturals, your green pumpkins, your brim imitators are going to work better on those days. And the brim are starting to spawn as well too in the month of May. Typically your first full moon in the month of May, depending on where you live in the country, you're going to have a brim spawn going on, and big fish love brim, especially in the post spawn. And then the last one is some type of soft plastic jerkbait like a fluke. So basically what you have happen is long periods where you just don't catch anything. You know, until you're in that magic window, the post spawn can be super tough. When you're in that magic window, it can be super easy, but all of the rest of the day where you're not catching anything, soft plastic jerkbait is a great numbers bait. It's a great bait that's going to still pick up some of those late spawners, but it's also a really good offering for fish that are in that funky mood. So you are moving this by their face, and eventually they can't resist it. So soft plastic jerkbait on your slick, calm days, your days with high sun, no clouds, this is a staple just to grub up a limit a lot of times. So these are 4 baits that I'll take anywhere in the country, and you can fish them in all depth ranges. And that is basically what you need to tell yourself at the end of the day. You know, like I said earlier in the video, just because they're everywhere in every depth range, that doesn't mean you can just catch them anywhere. These fish are starting to group up. They're going to be on little places, and you have to fish and cover a lot of water before you get to those places. So little pep talk I always have with myself before I fish a post spawn tournament is the weights are probably going to be less than what you think they are. So don't be surprised when you come in and the weights are 3 or 4 pounds less than they were in the early part of the spring around the spawn and the pre-spawn. And also you have to cover a lot more water in the post spawn. So what that means is you're not going to get to just pull up to that waypoint, make a few casts, go to the next spot. You're going to have to fish that entire area, which takes a lot more time, so you don't get to fish as many spots in a day. Very important that you're on the juice in the post spawn, because you've got to fish a lot of it, a lot of dead water. And if you don't do that, you're going to run into a lot of problems. So try these 4 baits. Good luck to you guys, and I'll see you on the water.